Right now, while you're reading this, there are applications installed on hundreds of millions of Android phones around the world that are doing something your bank never warned you about, something cybersecurity firms have been tracking with growing alarm through 2025 and into 2026, and something that has already cost ordinary people billions of dollars in losses that most of them never recovered. These apps are not hiding in dark corners of the internet. They are sitting in plain sight, some of them downloaded tens of millions of times, carrying ratings that look perfectly legitimate. And they are systematically reading the one-time passwords your bank sends you every single time you try to log in or authorize a transfer. And by the time you realize what has happened, your account is already empty. Here is something that the mobile security industry has known for years, but that almost nobody in mainstream conversation is talking about with the urgency it deserves. The entire architecture of modern mobile banking security, the system that banks spent enormous resources building, and that regulators around the world mandated as a standard protection layer, is being systematically dismantled not by hackers breaking into bank servers, not by nation-state actors cracking encryption protocols, but by ordinary-looking applications that users voluntarily downloaded and then handed extraordinary levels of access to without understanding what they were giving away. This is not a fringe problem. This is not something that only happens to people who are careless or technically unsophisticated. This is happening at scale in 2026 on phones that look perfectly clean and normal to the people who own them. To understand why this is so serious, you need to first understand what OTP-based two-factor authentication was designed to do and why banks adopted it with such confidence. The logic was elegant, and at the time it was introduced, genuinely sound. When you access your bank account through a mobile app or a web browser, you provide a password, which is something only you are supposed to know. The weakness of passwords has always been that they can be stolen, guessed, leaked in data breaches, or fished out of you through fake websites. So banks added a second requirement. After you enter your password, the bank sends a 6-digit code to the phone number registered on your account. You enter that code, and only then do you gain access. The idea is that even if a criminal somehow obtains your password, they still cannot access your account because they do not have your phone, and without your phone, they cannot receive the code. Your phone was supposed to be the physical barrier that made remote account takeover essentially impossible. This system worked for a while. Regulators in markets across the United States, the European Union, India, Pakistan, and across Southeast Asia mandated SMS-based OTP as a minimum security standard for banking transactions, and fraud rates did decline in the years immediately following widespread adoption. But here's what the banks and the regulators did not fully account for. The phone itself was never a sealed, tamper-proof vault. It was an open ecosystem running dozens of third-party applications, many of which had been granted deep system-level permissions by the user, and any one of those applications with access to incoming SMS messages could read every OTP the bank ever sent. The phone was the security layer, and the phone had already been compromised silently weeks or months before any fraudulent transaction ever took place. This is the architecture of the attack that is devastating mobile banking users in 2026, and it centers on a single Android operating system permission called RAD-SMS. When an Android application is granted READ SMS permission by a user during installation, that application gains the ability to access and read every text message that arrives on the device. Every message, without exception, including the message your bank sends that says your verification code is 583729 and is valid for 30 seconds and should not be shared with anyone. The moment that message arrives on a phone where a malicious application has read your SMS permission, that code is already compromised. The app reads it, extracts it programmatically, and transmits it to a remote server controlled by whoever built or is operating the malicious application. This entire process takes less than 3 seconds. It completes before most users have even picked up their phone to check the notification. By the time you open your banking app and look for the code has already been used. The transaction has already been authorized. The money is already moving. What makes this particularly insidious is the combination of RAD SMS with another Android permission called accessibility services. Accessibility services were designed with genuinely good intentions. They exist to allow applications to assist users with visual impairments, motor disabilities, or other accessibility needs by giving those applications the ability to read screen content and interact with the interface on the user's behalf. A screen reader needs accessibility services to function. Voice control applications need it. Certain productivity tools that automate tasks across multiple apps use it legitimately. But accessibility services is also one of the most powerful permissions available on the Android operating system. And when a malicious application obtains it alongside READ SMS access, the combination creates a surveillance and control capability that security researchers have described as essentially equivalent to having a remote operator sitting in front of your phone. An application with both permissions can read your incoming OTP from your SMS inbox, watch your screen to identify which banking app you're using and what transaction you're performing, and, in some cases, interact with your banking application directly, filling in credentials and authorizing transactions without you touching the screen at all. This is not a theoretical attack. Security firms, including Zimperium, Kaspersky, and ESET, documented multiple active malware families, using exactly this permission combination throughout 2024 and into 2025, with campaigns continuing and evolving into 2026. Now here is where this becomes something every single person with a smartphone needs to hear. The applications carrying out these attacks are not obviously malicious. They do not announce their intentions. They are not found only on shady websites or in obscure corners of the internet. Many of them present themselves as tools you would genuinely want, and they fall into three broad categories that are responsible for the overwhelming majority of OTP interception attacks currently active. The first category is fake utility applications. And this one deserves particular attention because it exploits one of the most persistent misconceptions in consumer technology. Walk into any conversation about smartphone performance and you will hear people talking about the need to clean their phone, optimize their battery, boost their RAM, or clear their cache. These are the promises made by an enormous category of applications that have been downloaded billions of times across Android devices worldwide. Battery saver apps, phone cleaner apps, RAM booster apps, junk file remover apps, performance optimizer apps. The problem, and this is something Android engineers and security researchers have been trying to communicate clearly for years, is that modern Android phones do not benefit from any of these applications. The Android operating system from version 8 onward and increasingly optimized through versions 12, 13, 14, and 15 handles memory management, battery optimization, cache clearing, and background process management automatically and adaptively. There is no memory to free that the OS has not already managed. There is no cache to clear that will produce meaningful performance improvements. There is no battery optimization that a third-party app can provide that the system-level adaptive battery feature has not already applied. These apps are selling solutions to problems that do not exist on modern hardware, but they are enormously successful at one thing: getting installed. And once installed, they request an extensive list of permissions, including SMS access, notification access, and accessibility services, justifying each request with language that sounds plausible. SMS access is needed, they claim, to filter spam messages or to autofill verification codes for convenience. Notification access is needed to give you priority alerts or to manage your notification center. Accessibility services are needed for their automated cleaning and optimization features. Users tap allow on each prompt because the app sounds helpful and the permissions sound reasonable, and in that moment, they have handed a potentially malicious application everything it needs to intercept every OTP their bank will ever send them. A 2024 analysis by mobile security firm Lookout identified dozens of applications in this utility category on the Google Play Store alone that had been downloaded a combined total of over 40 million times, and that were requesting SMS and accessibility permissions with no functional justification for those permissions. 40 million downloads. And that analysis covered only the apps that were on the official store, not the far larger number circulating through unofficial channels. The second category is fake loan and microfinance applications. And this one is growing at a rate that should alarm anyone paying attention to fraud trends in developing markets. The demand for quick, accessible credit through mobile platforms is enormous across South Asia, Southeast Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Latin America. Hundreds of millions of people in these regions have limited access to traditional banking credit but own smartphones and are actively looking for mobile lending solutions. This demand created a legitimate industry of digital microlending, but it also created a perfect cover for one of the most effective OTP theft operations currently active. A fake loan app does not need to look completely fraudulent to be effective. In fact, the most successful ones, in terms of the scale of fraud they enable, are the ones that are partially functional. They offer a genuine loan application process. They review your submitted information. They sometimes actually approve and disperse small loans, typically amounts between $50 and $200, because the credibility that comes from actually lending money is worth far more to the operation than the amount dispersed. During the registration process, these apps require users to grant SMS access, which they justify by claiming they need to verify the user's identity through incoming messages, or to autofill OTP codes during the verification steps of the application process. Both of these justifications sound completely reasonable to someone applying for a loan. Of course, the lending app needs to verify identity. Of course, it needs to handle OTP verification. So the user grants the permission. The app may or may not ever actually process their loan application. But it has what it came for. The Enforcement Directorate in India, in collaboration with cybercrime units in multiple states, documented over 200 fraudulent loan applications operating in this manner in 2024 alone, with estimated combined losses to victims exceeding 800 crore rupees, which translates to approximately 100 million US dollars in that single year and in that single country. Similar patterns have been documented in Indonesia, the Philippines, Kenya, Nigeria, and across Pakistan, where the Federal Investigation Agency's Cybercrime Wing reported a dramatic increase in complaints related to fraudulent loan apps intercepting banking credentials in 2024 and 2025. These are not small operations. They are industrialized fraud systems with sophisticated back-end infrastructure, customer acquisition funnels, and in many cases, customer service operations designed to keep victims calm and unaware while their accounts are being systematically drained. The third category is modified versions of legitimate applications. And this one is arguably the most dangerous because it exploits the trust that users have already placed in applications they know and use regularly. A modified app, sometimes called a modded app in online communities, is a version of a legitimate application that has been taken apart, had additional code inserted into it, and then been repackaged to look identical to the original. The visual interface is the same. The functionality is largely the same. If it is a messaging app, your messages still go through. If it is a social media app, your feed still loads. If it is an entertainment app, your content still plays. But running alongside all of that legitimate functionality is code that does something the original app was never designed to do. The most damaging versions of these modified apps target the most widely used applications, precisely because those are the ones users are most willing to install without scrutiny. Modified versions of messaging applications, social media platforms, video streaming apps, and even in some documented cases, modified versions of the official applications of banks themselves circulate through WhatsApp group chats, Telegram channels, and third-party app stores, typically offered with an appeal that is hard to resist, premium features available for free. A version of the app with advertising removed, a version that unlocks paid content without a subscription, an older version of an app before the developers changed something users preferred, regional versions of applications not officially available in certain countries. Cybersecurity firm ESET's threat report for 2025 specifically identified modified versions of popular messaging and entertainment applications as one of the primary distribution vectors for banking malware in Eastern Europe, South Asia, and Southeast Asia, with researchers tracking multiple distinct malware families being distributed this way, each capable of intercepting SMS-based OTPs and transmitting them to command and control servers within seconds of the messages arriving on the victim's device. The report noted that these modified applications were sophisticated enough to pass casual inspection, with the malicious code specifically designed to activate only under certain conditions, such as when the user opens a banking application, to avoid triggering behavioral detection systems that look for obviously suspicious activity patterns. Now, given that this threat is real, active, and operating at enormous scale, the next thing you need to do is check your own phone, not later, now. And the process is more straightforward than you might expect. Open your settings application on your Android device and navigate to the apps section. Different Android versions and different manufacturer interfaces label this slightly differently, but on most devices, you will find it under Settings, then Apps, and then see All Apps or a similar option that shows you the complete list of installed applications. Go through that list and tap on each application individually, then tap on Permissions to see exactly what that application has been granted access to on your device. What you're specifically looking for in this first pass is any application that has been granted access to SMS or messages. When you find one, do not immediately revoke the permission. First, think carefully about whether there is a genuine functional reason why that specific application needs to read your text messages. Your default SMS messaging application obviously needs this permission. Your bank's official application may legitimately use it for SMS autofill during login. Beyond those two categories, you should be deeply skeptical of any application that has SMS access. A photo editing application does not need to read your SMS messages. A weather application does not need to read your SMS messages. A fitness tracker does not need to read your SMS messages. A game does not need to read your SMS messages. Any utility application, cleaner, optimizer, or booster application, absolutely does not need to read your SMS messages. For every application you identify with SMS access where you cannot articulate a clear and specific functional reason for that access, revoke the permission immediately. Go back into the application's permission settings and toggle SMS access off. After you have gone through the SMS permissions, you need to check notification access separately because this represents a second pathway for OTP interception that many people do not realize exists. When your bank sends you an OTP by SMS, that message typically also appears as a notification banner on your lock screen or at the top of your screen. Any application that has notification access on your device can read the content of those notification banners, which means it can read your OTP from the notification without needing read SMS permission at all. On Android, you can find notification access under Settings, then Apps, then see All Apps, Then look for special app access or a similar option, which may be accessible through the three-dot menu in the upper right corner of the app screen. Tap on notification access and review every application listed there. The legitimate reasons for an application to have notification access are narrow. A smartwatch companion application needs it to mirror your phone notifications to your watch. A notification management or organization application you deliberately set up needs it. A vehicle connectivity application that displays your phone notifications on your car's screen needs it. Beyond those specific use cases, the bar for granting notification access to any application should be extremely high. And if you see applications in that list that you do not recognize or cannot justify, remove their access immediately. The third permission check, and this is the most critical of all, is accessibility services. Navigate to Settings, then Apps, then Special App Access, then Accessibility, or on some devices through Settings, then Accessibility, and look at which applications have been granted accessibility access. As mentioned earlier, this is one of the highest levels of system access available on Android, and the list of applications that genuinely need it is very short. If you use a screen reader for visual impairment, that application needs it. If you deliberately set up a voice control application for hands-free operation of your device, that may need it. Some legitimate password manager applications use it for autofill across applications. Beyond those categories, you should be alarmed to see any application listed here. If you see a utility application, a battery saver, a phone cleaner, a loan app, or any application you do not recognize in the accessibility access list, revoke that access immediately and then uninstall the application from your device entirely. Do not simply revoke the permission and keep the app. An application that requested accessibility access without a clear, legitimate reason for it has already demonstrated that it is not trustworthy, and keeping it on your device, even with reduced permissions, leaves open the possibility that it will request those permissions again or find alternative ways to operate. Once you have gone through the 3 permission audits, SMS access, notification access, and accessibility access, take a broader look at your installed applications and ruthlessly uninstall everything you do not use regularly and cannot clearly identify. The principle here is simple and important. Every application you keep on your phone is a potential permission holder, a potential data collector, and a potential attack surface. There's no benefit to keeping applications you're not actively using, and there is measurable risk in doing so. If you have not opened an application in the past 30 days and you cannot articulate a specific reason why you need to keep it, uninstall it. After cleaning up your applications and permissions, check your device's mobile data usage to look for behavioral red flags that might indicate an application is actively transmitting data it should not be. In your settings, navigate to the network section and look for data usage or mobile data. Then examine which applications are consuming data. Pay particular attention to the ratio of data uploaded versus data downloaded for each application. Legitimate applications almost universally download far more data than they upload. A social media application downloads your feed, your videos, your images. A banking application downloads your transaction history and account information. An email application downloads your messages. The amount of data going from your phone up to external servers should be a small fraction of what is coming down. An application that shows significant upload activity, meaning it is sending substantial amounts of data from your phone outward, especially an application you do not use frequently or that has no obvious content sharing function, is exhibiting behavior that warrants serious investigation. Combined with the permission audits you have already conducted, high upload activity from an unfamiliar or low-use application is a strong indicator that something problematic is occurring. Beyond the immediate cleanup steps, there are structural changes to make to how you receive and verify banking OTPs that will dramatically reduce your exposure to this category of attack going forward. The most impactful change available to most users is switching from SMS-based OTP to Authenticator application-based two-factor authentication, wherever your bank supports it. Authenticator applications, such as Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, and Authis work on a fundamentally different principle than SMS-based OTP. Rather than having your bank send a code to your phone via text message, the Authenticator application generates a time-based one-time password locally on your device, using a shared secret key that was established when you initially set up the Authenticator with your bank account. The code is never transmitted to your phone via any external channel. It is computed mathematically on the device itself, changes every 30 seconds, and never appears in your SMS inbox or as a notification banner. This completely eliminates the red SMS interception vector. There is no message to intercept because no message is ever sent. An application with SMS access cannot steal a code that never arrived as an SMS. The major international banks and increasingly regional banks in South Asia and Southeast Asia now support Authenticator app-based verification. Contact your bank's customer support or check your account security settings to determine whether this option is available to you, and if it is, make the switch today. For accounts that remain on SMS-based OTP, you need to be aware of and protected against SIM swap fraud, which represents a different but related threat to the same security layer. SIM swap fraud occurs when a criminal contacts your mobile carrier's customer service, provides enough personal information about you to pass identity verification, and convinces the carrier to transfer your phone number to a new SIM card in the criminal's possession. Once the transfer is complete, your phone loses signal because your number is now active on someone else's device, and every OTP your bank sends to that number goes directly to the criminal. SIM swap attacks have been responsible for some of the largest individual fraud losses in the mobile banking era, with documented cases involving losses of millions of dollars in cryptocurrency and banking accounts. The protection against SIM swap is straightforward but underused. Contact your mobile carrier and request that they add a port freeze, a SIM lock, or an account PIN to your account, depending on what your carrier offers. This means that any request to transfer your number to a new SIM card will require the caller to provide a specific PIN or password that only you know before the carrier will process the change. Virtually every major mobile carrier offers this protection. The percentage of users who have activated it is vanishingly small. You should also ensure that every application installation on your Android device is coming from the official Google Play Store, and that you have disabled the ability for applications to install other applications from unofficial sources. Go to Settings, then Apps, then Special App Access, then Install Unknown Apps, and verify that every application listed there has the toggle set to Not Allowed. This setting prevents any application on your device from downloading and installing additional applications from outside the Play Store, which is a common secondary infection vector where a legitimate-looking initial application installs additional malicious components after it has been granted installation permissions. One final behavioral practice that is undervalued and critically important is daily review of your bank account transaction history. Not weekly, not whenever you happen to log in, every single day. The window between when an OTP is intercepted and when a fraudulent transaction clears your account can be extremely short, and most banks have time-limited dispute windows for unauthorized transactions. The faster you identify unauthorized activity, the better your chances of recovering lost funds. Enable every transaction alert and account activity notification your bank offers, including login alerts, new device alerts, password change notifications, and transaction confirmation messages. These alerts give you real-time visibility into your account activity and can be the difference between catching a fraud attempt within minutes and discovering it days after any recovery window is closed. The broader picture here is one that the cybersecurity community has been watching with increasing concern as mobile banking has become the dominant financial interface for billions of people globally. The International Monetary Fund estimated in 2024 that mobile banking users worldwide crossed 3 billion, with the sharpest growth concentrated in markets that also have the least mature consumer cybersecurity awareness infrastructure. This is not a coincidence. Fraudulent application operators are sophisticated enough to understand where their targets are most concentrated and least protected. The markets seeing the most aggressive deployment of OTP intercepting applications in 2025 and 2026 are precisely the markets where mobile banking adoption is newest, where regulatory enforcement of application marketplace standards is weakest, and where the average user has the least exposure to security awareness content. But this is not a problem confined to developing markets. Cybersecurity firm Group IB's 2025 Financial Cybercrime Report documented active OTP interception campaigns, targeting users in the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, and Australia, using utility category applications distributed primarily through social media advertisements and affiliate marketing networks, reaching users who would never dream of downloading from unofficial sources, but who are perfectly willing to install a battery optimization application they found through a sponsored post. What you are dealing with in 2026 is a mature, industrialized, globally distributed fraud ecosystem that is specifically engineered to exploit the gap between how much people trust their phones and how much scrutiny they apply to what is actually running on them. The banks built a security layer, the criminals built a layer underneath it, the application permission system that was supposed to be a feature. The defense is not technically complex. It does not require specialized knowledge or expensive tools. It requires three things. It requires you to know which permissions actually matter for security and to audit them on your device right now. It requires you to apply a genuinely skeptical standard when any application requests access to your messages, notifications, or accessibility services. And it requires you to shift your OTP delivery to authenticator app-based verification wherever your bank allows it, eliminating the SMS interception vector entirely. These three steps, taken today, close the majority of the exposure that is allowing this fraud to operate at the scale it currently does. The applications doing this are already installed on phones belonging to people you know. Fraud is already happening, quietly, invisibly, in the background of devices that show no obvious signs of compromise. The only reason the account has not been drained yet is that the operator is waiting for the right moment, or has not yet activated the payload, or is harvesting OTPs from a large pool of compromised devices and working through them systematically. The protection is available. The steps are clear. What happens next depends entirely on whether you act on this information or whether you close this video and decide you will get to it later, because later in this particular threat landscape is a luxury that the architecture of this attack is specifically designed to ensure you do not have.